So this video is a review on the stoichiometry of solutions. So in our previous discussions sa stoichiometry, ina-express natin yung amounts ng reactants or products in terms of the mass or the number of moles. Dito, okay, we will be solving stoichiometry problems, pero ang mga given na natin dito ay mga concentrations. So we have to be familiar with the expressions of concentrations of solutions. Kasi yung mga reactants or products natin ay in solution na. So ibig sabihin may solvents na sila. Okay? So we have different ways of expressing concentrations of solutes. So we have the molarity. So kapag molarity, that's the number of moles of solute per unit volume, which is in liters. So ang unit ng ating molarity ay moles per liter or yung tinatawag na molar. Okay? Or yung M. Okay? Yan yung unit ng ating molarity. So sa molality naman, molality is the number of moles of solute per unit mass of solvent in terms of the unit, which is the kilograms. So, sa molarity, that's the volume of the solution. Pero kapag molality, that's the mass of the solvent. Okay? Solvent lang, hindi kasama yung solute. So, that's moles of solute per unit mass of solvent in kilograms. So, ang unit nito ay moles per kilogram or molal or yung small m. Okay? So, yun yung unit ng ating molality. So, next is the normality. So, normality is the number of equivalents of solute per unit volume of your solution in liters. So, yung equivalents, depende yon sa kung ano yung type ng reactions. So, pwede siyang number of exchangeable hydrogens or hydroxides. Pwede rin siyang number of electrons transferred kapag ka redox reactions. So, dapat particular tayo sa situation or dun sa ating system kapag ka nag-express tayo in terms of the normality. Okay? So, next is the parts per million of solute. So, parts per million is expressed as the mass of solute or volume of solute, pwede rin yon, or number of moles of solute. Basta dapat pareho yung units ng expression nyo ng solute tsaka ng solution. Okay? So, dito sa ppm na to, that particular example is in terms of the mass. So, mass of solute per mass of solution. Okay? So, usually yung ppm ginagamit siya kapag very low concentration yung ating solute. Kasi i-multiply mo siya ng 10 to the 6th. Okay? So, that's parts per million total parts. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng parts per million. Para siyang percent. So, yung percent kasi, i-multiply mo lang siya ng 100. Percent means per 100. Okay? So, yung parts per million, that's parts per million. Okay? So, dapat pareho yung units ng inyong solute and solvent mass bago nyo gawin yung operation na to. Tapos, i-multiply nyo siya ng 10 to the 6th para makuha nyo yung parts per million na expression. Okay? So, dito naman, we have the percent volume by volume. So, ito ay ginagamit kapag ang inyong solute ay liquid din. Okay? Kapag miscible liquid sila, tapos mas mababa yung amount ng isang liquid. So, kung gusto mong i-express yung concentration in terms of the either one of the components, gagamitin mo itong percent volume by volume. So, to express this, we have the volume of the solute per volume of the solution times 100 kasi this is percent. Okay, per 100. So that's times 100. Okay? So here we have an example. So 1.45 grams of sodium chloride was mixed with 20 ml of water. So this is the density of water, 0.995 grams per milliliter. So calculate the molarity and molality of the solution. So for the first step, calculate the number of moles of the solute. So ito yung solute natin, sodium chloride. I-convert lang natin sa number of moles. So, to get the molar mass of sodium chloride, i-add lang natin yung molar mass ng sodium, 22.99 grams per mole, saka yung molar mass ng chlorine, that's 35.45 grams per mole. We will get 58.44 grams per mole of sodium chloride. Okay, so gagamitin natin yung molar mass to calculate for the number of moles. So that's 1.45 grams of sodium chloride times 1 mole of sodium chloride over 58.44 grams of sodium chloride. So makakancel yung grams. Okay, so we will get 0.0248 moles of sodium chloride. So for the next step, calculate the molarity and the molality of the solution. So for the molarity, number of moles of the solute, okay, 0.0248 moles of sodium chloride, ilalagay lang natin doon, over the volume of your solution. So, i-assume natin dito na walang contribution sa volume yung solute. So, kapag naglagay ka ng sodium chloride, hindi niya masyadong nababago yung volume ng buong solution. Okay? So, i-assume natin na yung volume ng solution ay yung volume lang ng solvent. Okay? So, that's 20 ml times 1 liter over 1,000 ml para makuha natin yung liters na unit. So, makakancel yung ml. So, kapag sinolve natin to, we will get 1.24 molar or yung moles per liter of the aqueous and ACl. So aqueous means nasa water or water yung kanyang solvent. Okay? So for the molality, that's the number of moles of your sodium chloride, 0.0248 over the mass of your solvent, which is water. So para ma-convert natin sa mass, okay, i-multiply lang natin sa density yung volume ng water. So that's 20 ml times 0.995 grams of water per ml of water. So cancel yung ml. Okay? So since kailangan natin ng kilograms na unit, multiply natin siya ng 1 kilogram over 1,000 grams. So cancel din yung grams. Okay? So matitira dyan ay kilogram of water. So if we solve this, we will get 1.246 molal or yung moles per kilogram ng aqueous sodium chloride. Okay? So for the next example, a 100 ml 0.45 molar sodium chloride solution was prepared. The density of the solution is 1.024 grams per ml. So calculate its molality. So from molar, ika-calculate natin yung molal. Okay? So for the first step, calculate the number of moles of sodium chloride, tapos yung mass ng sodium chloride, and then the mass of water. Okay? So for the number of moles of sodium chloride, that's just equal to the molarity times the volume. Okay? So molarity of sodium chloride times the volume of water. So that's 0.45 times 100 ml. Iko-convert natin yung 100 ml sa liters. Okay? Kasi ang unit nito ay moles per liter. So 100 ml times 1 liter over 1,000 ml, makakancel yung ml. Okay? So that's 0.45 times 100 over 1,000. So makuha natin ay 0.045 moles of sodium chloride. Okay? So for the mass of sodium chloride, i-multiply lang natin yung number of moles sa kanyang molar mass. So that's 0.045 moles of sodium chloride times 58.44 grams of sodium chloride per mole of sodium chloride. So makakancel yung moles. Okay? So makuha natin ay 2.6298 grams NaCl. Okay? So for the mass of water, susubtract natin yung mass ng sodium chloride from the mass of the solution. So paano natin makukuha yung mass ng solution? We have the density of the solution, tapos meron tayo ng volume. So i-multiply lang natin yung volume ng solution saka yung density niya, makuha natin yung mass ng solution. This is the mass of the solution. Okay? Tapos nakuha na natin yung mass ng sodium chloride, 2.6298. Okay? So that's equal to 100 ml times yung density ng solution. So 100 times 1.024 grams per 1 ml. So makacancel yung ml. We have now the mass of the solution. Okay? So susubtract natin yung 2.6298 grams of sodium chloride. Makukuha natin yung mass ng water, 99.7702 grams. So meron na tayo ng mass of water. Okay? So calculate na natin yung molality kasi meron na tayong mass ng solute, or yung number of moles ng solute, tsaka yung mass ng solvent. Okay? So that's molality is equal to the moles of sodium chloride per the mass of your solvent. So that's 0.045 moles of sodium chloride over 99.7702 grams. Okay? So ika-calculate natin yung kilograms ng solvent by converting it. Okay? So 1 kilogram over 1,000 grams, yun yung multiplier natin sa denominator. So makakancel yung grams. So ang magiging unit niyan ay moles per kilogram na. So that's 0.045 over 99.7702 times 1 over 1,000. Makakalculate natin ay 0.451 molal of aqueous sodium chloride. Okay? So for the next example, how many grams of sodium hydroxide, ito yung molar mass na given, will be needed to prepare 100 ml of 0.150 molar solution? So yung solute natin dito, of course, is sodium hydroxide, tapos yung solvent natin ay water. So paano daw tayo magpe-prepare ng 100 ml ng 0.150 molar ng sodium hydroxide solution? Okay? So first, calculate muna natin yung number of moles dun sa 0.150 molar solution na 100 ml. Gaano ba karaming moles ng sodium hydroxide yung kailangan? Okay? So this is the molarity is equal to the number of moles of the solute per liter of your solution. Okay? So isosolve lang natin yung N dito, given na yung molarity tsaka yung volume. So kapag sinolve yung equation, you will get the number of moles of sodium chloride or sodium hydroxide required. That's 0.015 moles. So since wala tayong weighing scale na nagme-measure ng moles, we have to convert this to mass. So let's calculate the mass of sodium hydroxide. So that's 0.015 moles times yung molar mass niya, 39.998 grams per mole of sodium hydroxide. So makakancel yung moles, matitira dyan ay yung grams. So kapag sinolve nyo to, you will get 0.59997 grams of sodium hydroxide na pellets. So, ang gagawin nyo, mag-weigh kayo ng almost 0.6 grams ng sodium hydroxide. Tapos, lalagyan nyo siya ng 100 ml ng water. So, you can prepare the 100 ml of 0.150 molar of the solution. Okay? So, for the next example, what volume of 0.05 molar HCl solution, this is the molar mass, contains 10 grams of HCl solute? So for the first step, convert muna natin si 10 grams sa number of moles. So 10 grams of HCl times 1 mole over its molar mass, 36.458, given here, makukuha natin ay 0.274 moles of HCl. So meron na tayong number of moles of HCl, gaano karaming volume yung required para makuha natin yung ganitong amount. Okay? So calculate the volume of 0.05 molar HCl that contains this much HCl. So we will use the equation. Molarity is equal to the number of moles of HCl over the volume of the HCl solution. So kapag ni-rearrange natin, we will get the volume of the solution is equal to the number of moles of the solute over its molarity. So i-divide lang natin yung 0.274 sa 0.05 molar HCl. We will get the volume which is equal to 5.48 liters. So ang kailangan yung amount ng ganito karaming or ng ganyang concentration ng HCl para makakuha kayo ng 10 grams ng HCl na solute ay 5.48 liters ng solution. Okay? So kapag ganyan karami yung solution nyo, meron siyang 10 grams ng HCl na solute. Okay? So now let's proceed to an example na meron ng reaction involved. So consider this neutralization reaction. Hydrochloric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide to produce sodium chloride and water. So balance na yung reaction na yan kasi 1:1 lang lahat yan. Okay? So all we need to do is to calculate the volume of 0.10 molar HCl needed to completely react with this much sodium hydroxide. So given yung volume at saka yung kanyang concentration. So first, let's calculate the number of moles of sodium hydroxide kasi given na yung volume niya at saka yung concentration. So the number of moles of sodium hydroxide in this volume is the molarity of sodium hydroxide times its volume. So that's 0.05 molar times yung 50 ml, pero i-convert muna natin yung 50 ml sa liters kasi yung molarity ay moles per liter. So dapat liters yung i-multiply mong volume. So that's 50 liters times 1 liter over 1,000 ml. So makakancel yung ml. So after nyo makalculate yan, you will get 2.5 times 10 to the negative 3 moles of sodium hydroxide. Okay? So ngayon, gagamitin nyo na yung stoichiometry para makalculate yung kailangan natin na HCl. So that's for the next step. So 2.5 times 10 to the negative 3 moles of sodium hydroxide times yung mole ratio, since 1:1, makakancel lang yung units. Okay? 2.5 times 10 to the negative 3 moles of HCl is needed to neutralize that much sodium hydroxide. So using the molarity equation, molarity is number of moles of HCl over its volume. Okay, i-rearrange lang natin para makuha yung volume. So volume is equal to the number of moles of HCl over its molarity. So that's 2.5 times 10 to the negative 3 moles of HCl over 0.1 molar HCl. Makuha natin ay 0.025 liters or 25 ml. Okay? So that's how you calculate for the volume required para ma-neutralize yung sodium hydroxide. Okay? So another example, calculate the volume of 0.20 molar sodium hydroxide needed to neutralize this much sulfuric acid. So 20 ml, 0.50 molar of the sulfuric acid. So ito yung reaction. Okay? Balance na rin yung ating reaction. So that's sulfuric acid plus 2 moles of sodium hydroxide produces sodium sulfate plus water. Okay? So for the first step, since given yung volume and concentration of sulfuric acid, okay, calculate the number of moles of sulfuric acid. So the molarity is equal to the number of moles of sulfuric acid over its volume. So makuha nyo yung number of moles equals just sa molarity times the volume of the sulfuric acid solution. So that's 0.5 molar times yung 20 ml converted to liters. Makuha nyo ay 0.01 moles of sulfuric acid. Okay? So calculate natin yung required volume ng sodium hydroxide. So the required volume, okay, is yung moles of sodium hydroxide over the molarity of the sodium hydroxide. So para makuha natin yung moles ng sodium hydroxide, we need to multiply the number of moles of sulfuric acid by the mole ratio, which is 2 moles of sodium hydroxide per mole ng sulfuric acid. So makakancel yung moles H2SO4. Okay? So we already have the number of moles of sodium hydroxide doon sa numerator. Sa denominator naman ay yung 0.20 molars ng sodium hydroxide. So makukuha natin ay 0.1 liter ng sodium hydroxide solution or 100 ml ng sodium hydroxide solution. So, ganyan karami yung sodium hydroxide solution na kailangan nyo para ma-neutralize yung sulfuric acid solution. Okay? So, for that same problem, we have an alternative solution. Okay? So, this is called the equivalence point determination. So, at the equivalence point, so yun yung point kung saan pareho na silang limiting reactants. Okay? So, yung sulfuric acid nyo at yung sodium hydroxide, mauubos na sila pareho pag nag-react sila. That is the equivalence point. Wala nang matitirang reactants after ng reaction. Theoretically. Okay? So, at the equivalence point, 2 times the number of moles of sulfuric acid present should be equal to the number of moles of your sodium hydroxide. Okay? So, kung ano man yung amount ng sulfuric acid in moles, i-multiply mo lang yun sa 2, yun yung amount in moles ng sodium hydroxide required doon sa equivalence point. So, to prove this, consider 1 mole of sulfuric acid. So, para makonsume mo siya, you need 2 moles of sodium hydroxide. Okay? So, kapag meron kang X moles ng sulfuric acid, 2X moles ng sodium hydroxide yung required. Okay? So, if X is the number of moles of sulfuric acid and 2X is the number of moles of sodium hydroxide, at the equivalence point, 2 times the number of moles of sulfuric acid is equal to the number of moles of sodium hydroxide. So, nireplace ko lang to nung moles of H2SO4. Tapos, nilagay ko siya dito. Okay? So, that's the proof. So, at equivalence point, ganyan yung ratio ng sulfuric acid tsaka sodium hydroxide. Or ganyan yung relationship between the amounts of sulfuric acid and sodium hydroxide. So, we know that N is equal to the molarity times the volume. Okay? So, 2 times the molarity times the volume of sulfuric acid solution is equal to the molarity times the volume of sodium hydroxide solution. So, i-rearrange lang natin yung equation para makuha natin yung volume ng sodium hydroxide. Okay? So, volume of NaOH is equal to 2 times the molarity of sulfuric acid times its volume over the molarity of sodium hydroxide. So, substituting the equation or the values, we have 2 times 20 ml times 0.5 molar over 0.2 molar. So, makakancel yung molarity na unit, ang matitira ay ml. So, we will get 100 ml using this technique. So, mas madali yung technique na to kasi straightforward na siya. Hindi na kayo gagamit ng multiple steps or hindi na kayo gagamit ng stoichiometry na nagko-convert pa tayo sa number of moles bago natin makuha yung volume. Okay? So, in this last example, gagamitin na natin yung determination of the equivalence point para makalculate yung volume ng 0.01 molar HCl needed to neutralize 20 ml of 0.05 molar sodium carbonate or Na2CO3. So, this is the reaction. 1 mole of Na2CO3 in solution plus 2 moles of HCl produces water, CO2, and 2 moles of sodium chloride. Okay? So, at the equivalence point, 2 times the number of moles of sodium carbonate is equal to the number of moles of HCl. So, makikita nyo, yung coefficients nila, nagbabaliktad lang kapag i-express nyo na siya sa equivalence point. So, since 1 mole yung Na2CO3, tsaka 2 moles yung HCl dun sa chemical equation, 2 moles yung Na2CO3 at 1 mole lang yung sa HCl dito sa ating equivalence point. Okay? So, kung ano yung kanyang coefficient dun sa equivalence point, baliktad siya dun sa coefficient natin sa chemical equation. Okay? So, knowing that, substitute na natin. So, again, yung number of moles is equal to the molarity times the volume. Okay? So, 2 times the molarity times the volume of sodium carbonate is equal to the molarity times the volume of your hydrochloric acid. Okay? So, rearranging the equations, we will get this. Okay? So, volume of HCl is equal to 2 times the molarity times the volume of sodium carbonate solution over the molarity of HCl. So, substituting the values, so that's 2 times 20 ml times 0.05 over 0.01. So, makakancel yung molar, ang matitirang unit ay ml. You will get 200 ml. Okay? So, para ma-neutralize nyo yung 20 ml ng 0.05 molar sodium carbonate, okay, at ganito yung amount ng HCl nyo, you need 200 ml of this concentration of HCl. Okay? So, this is my discussion on the review on the stoichiometry of solutions. So, magpo-proceed na ako sa chemical equilibrium sa susunod na video. Okay? So, see you next video.